I'm going to put on the video as well because I need my hands to speak. So yeah, hello everyone. Well, this is actually the end of the presentation. Yes. So thank you everyone for being here and thank you for inviting me. This is the artist you need about that. Public domain on visual novels. I'm Diego. I'm from Spain. Sorry for my English, it's not the best actually. I've been working on video games for almost 10 years. These are some of the games that where I work on. My first commercial game was Diagonal Hell for mobile. I made communication and marketing on some of these games that are over here. And I wrote Ancora, Samimara, Creatures of Ava, among other games, and Elementalis that is going to come out like in a couple of months. It's like a Zelda-like, so it's pretty fun. And I'm the co-founder and creative director in Now Norte, and we are going to release Tiny Garden on April 8th. So yeah, that's a little bit of my resume. And I don't know how to draw at all. Like, please don't make me do it. I don't want to do it. I don't know how to do it. I can't. So this is an issue because video games is a visual medium first. And I wanted to make my own things and I wanted to make my own visual novels, but I don't want to learn how to draw and I'm really, really afraid to do it. So I started thinking how to make art without making it myself. And I remember that there are many, many artists through a story that actually use different techniques, like for example, collage. And that is something that I'm particularly fond of, and that's how I do in my own things. So for example, Hannah Hawk and Barbara Kruger are two artists from the 20th century that make great art. And when I was a kid, I saw a lot of Monty Python's Flying Circus. And between the real life person sketches, they have these animations with collage that are really, really weird and absurd. And it was really fun. And in video games, we have Joe Richardson that made point and click adventures, like for example, Procession to Calvary. Actually, he released a new one like a couple of months ago. And they are really, really fun and amazing. And he used like classical paintings to do his thing. And I really love that. So I started making my own things using this technique, this collage. For example, this is a game that I made so many years ago called City Love, based on my countless hours of listening to city pop music on YouTube. Another thing that I did recently was Idealistar. That this is a sort of Dungeon crawler made on Ren'py, actually. And the photos were real photos or real ads. Because I was like, my landlord told me that I have to leave my house, and I was really, really angry with him. So I made a game about a quantic apartment filled with rooms where you have to pay the rent, and you can pay the rent, or you can actually pay with your own body. And yeah, so I did this kind of things, but all of this is not with public domain things, art, so this doesn't count actually, but to put all of you on perspective of what I do. So this is the worrying part, because when I talk about public domain, what I'm talking is about a piece of art, creations, works that doesn't have any type of copyright or rights at all. So you can do whatever you want with them. For example, with the Shakespeare plays, Beethoven music, and even recent movies like The Little Shop of Horrors is a movie from the 60s that for legal reasons doesn't have copyright. So you can just you can download this movie from the internet, put it on a DVD and sell that DVD, and nobody can tell you anything about that because it doesn't have any type of copyright. So it's actually on the public domain. So you can actually even make maybe a visual novel based on The Little Shop of Horrors, using the screenshots for the movie, using the music, using the dialogue. You can actually do that. So yeah, there are different types of licenses for different type of creations. So I'm talking about public domain. There's of course copyright, where you can do anything. You can't do anything about that. And of course, Creative Commons. Actually, you can use Creative Commons. You have like on the top the public domain. The CC BY is like you need to give credit to the person that create first that work. For example, the NC, the CC by NC is no commercial, so you can use that, but you can't get a profit out of that. So that's kind of things that you can learn about that. And for example, the copyleft as well. If you have a creation that is freedom, like in the first tier, the 0, you can use that work however you want, but in the second tier, you can only copy and share the work. You can't do anything outside, out from that work. So, oh, well, that's okay. So the public domain, it of course, it depends on each country has their own type of public domain. So for example, in the US, is 95 years after the publication of the work. So for example, this year the works from 1929 enter public domain, and last year the works from 1928. So that's why Steamboat Willie from Disney enter the public domain, and you can use that Mickey Mouse, and you can use that Willie and the Steamboat as well. In Europe, for example, is 70 years after the death of the creator. So that's a huge difference. Like, it's not about the work, it's about the creator. But here in Spain, it's actually 80 years, no 70. So you have to be very careful when you look at public domain, because it depends on the country where that work was created and what laws apply there. So you can look at that. And the not so worrying part about this is that where to find things. So internet is the best place in the world. You can look at webs like Public Domain Image Archive. It's pretty fun to look at photographs there and paintings and a lot of different things. And of course, museums. Museums is the best place to do these kind of things, because they have a lot of old like paintings that you can find. So for example, I choose 2 that I not use that much, but I usually take a look at them, like the Smithsonian and Getty Museum. And you can even find sound and music that is in the public domain. So for example, in the BBC sound effects, you have to be very careful there, because it's for non-profit. So you can't use that on commercial games, but for a game jam, for example, for something that you can upload to each, you can do that for sure. Like I said before, you can look at this is the image that I took from the Smithsonian. So you can find there the type of license that piece of work has. So for example, this one is Creative Commons and no rights reserved. So you can actually use this on a commercial game. Yeah. So my favorite place in the world actually is really near from where I live now. And it has like a 10,000 artworks there. So for example, this is the Cardinal by Raphael, and you can actually download this image. But you have to be very careful, because once you download, you click on the download button. Is there the personal use or the commercial use? Because, like I said, sometimes the piece of art, for example, or the work is on the public domain, but not for example, here, this painting is in public domain, but not the photograph. The photograph belongs to the museum. So you can use this photograph as a personal use, but if you want to do it for a commercial purpose, you have to reach the museum and talk with them. So that's a little bit tricky. But yeah, I do this all the time, because like I said here, you can download these images for nonprofit publications, personal website, blogs, social media, whatever. I don't think that the museum knows about video games or visual novels, but this is like is implicit in this one. So I use a lot their collection to do my own things. And what I do is, like, I took, for example, this painting, this is the Francisco de Ocariz and Ochoa by Velázquez, a painting for 400 years ago. And I took just this one because I really like a full body portrait. That's really nice, but I put it out like in Photoshop, very cheap, very easy. And then I select like a background, like for example, Meadows of Holland. It's only 200 years ago. And I also put this a little bit, and I put the guy on top, and I have my thing already. So this is very basic. This is very cheap. This is very easy to do, and you can get crazy with this. Like I said, you see before the other colleges that from other artists that are way better than me, and they do crazier things. So you can do actually crazier things with this. And I look a lot into these collections, and I select a piece of work for things that I'm not doing right now or that we'll do later. So for example, this is actually from the museum, from the Prado, that I selected, and I just cut it out for things that I wanted to do on the future. So for example, this man has a very weird face and very like very weird and funny face. And I don't know what I'm going to do with her, but I just really like it. So for example, in the middle, this guy is actually Cain from the Bible, and he's very, very angry and he's looking at you very violently, and he's like going to hit you. So that's also very interesting to do it. Another two guys, like the center and that guy on top mounting the center, is like what is the relationship, what they are doing. So that's the thing that inspired me actually to do some kind of things. It's like just looking through these pieces of art and going to the museum and thinking not only what this painting is about, but what can I do with these images that are already done. So yeah, this is, like I said, this is quick things that I do because I have an idea. I wrote that like very quickly, and I don't have time for an artist or anything. So I just look into a folder I have with references, or I look in the museum with backgrounds and with characters, and I do it very quickly. And this is like I said, this is very basic. This is very easy to do, but at least for me, it's fun. So yeah, and another thing that here in Spain we have a lot of painters, and for some reason we had a lot of kings, and looking into different portraits, that this is the best for doing visual novel, actually, the portraits. I found that Philip IV, that is this guy for 100 years ago, he has like a lot of paintings through the ages, through his life. So here he was like 20 odd years old, something like that. He's with an armor. This is a different painting. He's with a mustache and in a horse. This is with a dog. This is like older, already with 40. This is like 40 something with an armor. He's already with 50 and praying. And this is like almost at the last years of his life. And like I said, for me, it's not as much about what is the story or who was actually this guy, but what can I do with all these paintings about this guy's life through all his life, and how can I use this on a story, or maybe how can I create a story based on all of these different paintings and this guy growing up. So yeah, I speaking really quick because I have a lot of anxious all the time. But the idea for this quick and weird talk was actually to show you how to look for and how to create things out of public domain art, because I think this is really neat, and at least for me, it inspired me like really a lot. Why use public domain on your things? Like it's a different technique and a different approach to create a visual novel. I think that there are not many people using this, and it's understanding because there's a lot of artists that want to create this. But at the same time, I think it's catch the eye of people that is not this is not a very normal thing to do, and it can also has like a pragmatic approach to this, because you can use it as placeholder for the art that will come later. So you can use this to see the size of the portraits and how many portraits do you need, how many backgrounds you are going to need, the position, a lot of things that are actually very, very quickly to do. You can do it with this kind of art. You can use it as well for game jam assets. If you have to do it something like a Ludum Dare, like in 84 hours, something like that, this is very quickly. And at least for me, it's very looking at thousands of paintings and photographs from 300 years ago. It's always pretty fun. Like I said, this is for public domain, but the collage as technique, you can use whatever you like. So right now I'm watching a TV show called Suke Bandeka. That's an 80s TV show from Japan. And I like just cutting out portraits of the characters and using that for create different things, because it's really fun to use like real life photographs of people or screenshots from a TV show or from a movie to do that. But public domain, I think, is really interesting right now because it's something that we all can access to that, and we is like free. It's there. You can use it on commercial or non-commercial projects, and as well, like in a world filled with AI, use that artists because they are eco-friendly. It's already there. It's already done. You can use it however you want. And this was really quick. And thank you so much. And I hope this interests you. So thank you. Nice. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. All right. So, all right. Wow. Okay. Questions. All right. Sorry if I missed this, but does the time limit apply to my country or the deceased creator's country? Do people from Spain have to wait 10 years longer, or does everyone have to wait 10 years longer, creators from Spain? Like, how do those rules work?
Yeah, it's like I said, for example, the Steamboat Willie is a good reference because Steamboat Willie was created in the US. So the US laws applies to that piece of work, but applies globally. So once this piece of work from the US enter public domain for everywhere in the world. So if you have an artist, if you have an artist from Spain that dies like 100 years ago and their work is on public domain, you can actually use that. So yeah, the laws apply to the work, and that laws are from the country where that work was created. Yeah.
Well, okay. Another question is, do you know how the rules apply to a project with tons of people working on it? Does the longest living creator rule apply to every single person working on a video game, for example?
Yeah, that depends. Like I said, in the US, for example, and I know that in each country has their own rules and their own laws, so you have to check that for that. But in the US, it's to the piece of work. So it doesn't matter if Walt Disney was still alive. If the work created in 1928 entered the public domain like the previous year. So that's all. In Europe, is the longest living creator. So for example, I don't know if the UK follow the Europe law, but if the Lord of the Rings has several authors, Lord of the Rings will enter public domain 70 years after the last creator was the death of the last creator. So yeah, you will have to wait like, I don't know, a game create in Europe. That's something interesting because actually the copyright for video games for a work created by various people doesn't have the same rules. So for example, in movies, the guys that have the rights to the movie are only the director, the writer, the cinematographer, and the musician, I believe, but not the custom designer, for example. So you will have to wait until for example, the writer is dead, and you wait 70 years after the writer is dead, if that was the last living person who hold the rights for that. So yeah.
Okay, and then if someone with the rights was to today create a new Lord of the Rings character, does it reset the limit on the entire franchise?
No, because it is the original author. So that's something that was really discussed. So for example, in the US, there has several different changes in the copyright law. Actually, there was a law in the 90s that was called the Mickey Mouse copyright, because Disney tried to boycott the actual the law that was on that moment, because Mickey Mouse was going to enter public domain way sooner than 2024. And they changed the law because Disney like did a lot of lobbying there and boycott the law on that moment. You can look up for that on Wikipedia. So yeah, right now, for example, the Lord of the Rings rights is with the family actually, but the family will hold these rights until the year that will, like 70 years after the Tolkien, actually the Tolkien died, and they will not have the rights anymore with them. So you can use actually Legolas and Frodo, and you actually can finally do the Frodo and Sam Yuri and Yaoi thing. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, untangling large corporate copyright is a whole branch of law.
Yeah. No, I'm not a lawyer, so I just
I
a guy
know.
that read a lot of articles about this. So don't take my word as an advice in any way, and please look very carefully when you're using someone's work. Like I said, in this part of the presentation, you can see it. Wait a minute. You can see it very easy here. Like, okay, it's Creative Commons, it's not rights reserved, so you are safe here. But yeah, be very careful, please.
Yeah, you still have to. I remember there was like you still have to be careful with Creative Commons because certain like the certain considerations can
Yeah.
cause issues for you. So
Yeah, like this one. If you see like the ND, you can't modify the actually the so if you have a comic book, for example, that is Creative Commons by ND, you can't take anything from that comic book and use it to do another thing with that. You can't share the comic book and download the comic book and print that comic book, but you can modify that work or use that work for other kind of things. So yeah.
yeah, so pay attention. Like public domain is the safest one, but you still have to make sure it's firmly in public domain. Okay, we have 3 minutes left. Any last questions? One, we can do one more if anyone's got something in. Let's see. But yeah, the required I am not a lawyer disclaimer. That is, yeah, especially because international copyright, it's again crazy. But thank you so much for law people
so
for this talk. People loved it. It was probably one of the clearer copyright talks I've seen. So thank you very much. Okay, who is next here? Hold on, let me check my schedule. Okay, so Justin, I think, is next. So you can get set up here. We got about 2-3 minutes left until your talk starts, but you can totally get set up.
I'll gladly take those extra few minutes.
Your avatar always gets me when it shows up.
Okay. So hopefully you can hear me.
Yep.
And you can see my slide.
Yep.